What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ramble Within. I'm your boy, Coach O Speaks, for today's Friday Frenzy.
She rambles in the background.
Hey, so today we're going to continue what we already been discussing with me and my wife this week of the uncomfortable conversations. And just like in sports and athletics, there is a lot of times of that uncomfortable conversations amongst coaches as well as the players. And just also with the marriage stronger. By having these uncomfortable conversations, you can build that marriage stronger between the relationships of the organization on down, then the coaching staff and the players. So let's get into it.
Now, a lot of people think once you make a roster, you're officially part of the team. But that's not always true, right?
That is absolutely correct. Just because you make a roster, so going into football season right now, just to give y'all a heads up, the NFL is signing a lot of players and they just had the draft. So they're building their roster. And you can get up to, I think some teams actually get up to like 92, 95, maybe even that 100 player mark. They get that many players to come out because they're looking for the right pieces to put together. They have the drafts, they have tryouts, and they have open signings where they sign the undrafteds or other free agents that no one has.
So, can you explain what the cut process actually looks like from the inside?
Yes, the cut process is basically from now until the start of the season. They're going through what we call the mini camps. They're going through organizational training facility programs to sit there and evaluate all these athletes from rookies to the veterans. So as they go through this process is going to take the next couple of weeks to months because they're getting ready and they're getting prepared. So they're going through all the practices, all the tryouts, all the individual workouts, all the individual drills, and they need to cut their roster down to 53 players. That is all they're allocated to dress and put on a field for the National Football League.
So, what emotions do players usually experience during that waiting period?
Oh man, I can only imagine anxiety, frustration, anticipation, depression. Because if you're at a practice and you have a bad play, now that bad play is in your mind. You're like, oh God, am I going to get cut? So you focus on the little mental errors instead of focusing on how can I strive to get more positive feedback or to get moving forward with greatness. So they start focusing on negative plays versus the positive plays.
So, how important is emotional intelligence for an athlete whose future still feels uncertain?
It's very important because, first of all, intelligence. The more information you know and have, the better you can adapt yourself to the rigor of the NFL workouts. Okay, it's just like in any athletics growing up. You know, once you know what is entailed, what you need to do, how you need to put it on the field and present yourself, then you could come out with a game plan and you could come out with full force. I'm going to get this. But when you're uncertain and you're not sure, and then if you feel like you don't want to open up and ask questions and you think you're just that dude, then things are going to happen to you.
So, as a coach, what separates those players who handles being cut well from the ones who spiral emotionally?
Well, because everybody understands that, things can happen, right? You could be the best of the best. You could be that number one overall pick that just got drafted, and you could have the worst practices ever. But at the same time, if you keep your head on straight and don't let the emotional frustrations take you down and you come to practice and you put your 100% effort into it, you could get overlooked as a dead dude to a great dude. So those are where the spiralness needs to be under control versus I got this. So reason why I say it like that for me, for example, when I was in high school, I struggled with English, right? I didn't understand English. I didn't understand, the reading comprehension aspect, all that stuff. I struggled all through high school. However, I kept putting in 100% effort. And because I kept putting that 100% effort and I didn't allow my flaws of not understanding or grasping the information, I was able to still put forth 100% effort. My teacher helped me and passed me and got me to understand how to pass. So it's the same thing as grown men in the NFL. Yes, it's a new experience for them. It's a new system wide what they're going through. So as long as they can control their emotions and their mental destruction, and they sit there and put their effort, and also if they're having a bad moment or they're not participating the way they should be participating, and they ask questions, they will be able to get looked at as we need them on the team. But if they're one that's going to spiral and just say, you know what, I don't need to do all this, or you know what, I'm just that dude, because they think they're that dude, even though they don't have to put the effort into it, it's not going to work out.
There's a lot of pressure with some of these young men. They are carrying families coming into the draft, and it's a lot of pressure. So how can an athlete avoid tying their entire identity to making a team?
Well, simple. Take the thing that you love the most, like she said. They have families. Look at it as this is your job for your family. So don't put the pressure on. If you don't get the job, your family's gonna fall apart. Look at it as my family is the reason why I'm gonna get the job, right? You put your family first. You put all the positive of how happy things are gonna be with your family. The pool parties, the travel, whatever you can think of to sit there and put positive feedback to you. Manifestation, my wife is always saying the positiveness. Look at that, like, hey, I'm going to be able to take my kids to all the parks, or we're going to be able to go to different cities. They could come with me to the different cities when I go travel and play these games. That's what you focus on. Don't focus on, if I don't get this job, I can't provide for my family. Look at it as, man, with my family, this job is going to let me elevate them.
Now, there are a lot of things that can happen. We can get cut.
Yes.
We can be at practice and injure, and it could be a season injury.
Yes.
What does that resilience look like actually after being disappointed in sports? Let's use my for example. I mean, he's sitting down.
I mean, I
How can you
can't,
be resilient with that?
man, it's basically, man, you just got to look within yourself, right? Injuries happen, okay? They're going to happen. It's the name of the game. Now, you got basically, like my wife says, it's one or two options. It's either you're going to focus on getting better from the injury and continue what you love doing, or you're going to let the injury take you out and you fall apart. That's basically what it boils down to. Everything in life is two options. Either you do or you don't. That's why we have the willpower. That's why we have the ability of choice, because you have the choice to either you're going to do good or you're going to do bad. That is what it is. And whatever choices you choose to make, whether it's good or bad, be accountable for yourself and stand in it. Stand in your choices, whether they're a good outcome or a bad outcome. Don't sit there and make a choice because it was a bad outcome and now you want to blame everybody else. No, it was a bad outcome because you chose the bad outcome, so stand accountable for yourself.
Do you think these young athletes are taught enough emotional coping skills?
No, I don't think so at all. I think they should have a lot more tools presented to them, because basically, let's look at life, right? A lot of these young players, young athletes across the board, this is their way of getting out of whatever the situation is, right? Whatever their home life is, whatever neighborhoods they grew up in, whatever it is, this was their way of getting out of it. So they focused on completely just doing whatever they could to get out of the situation and get into the NFL. So all that emotional baggage, all that depression, all that anxiety, all of that traumatic experiences that they went through from a child, they were never taught and to understand it, how to see it, how to deal with it. They just bottled it up, pushed it behind them, and let it. And that's why you see athletes now that get into the league unravel, because it's their unhealed spaces that were never shown to them, was never explained to them. Now it's coming to a head. It's all coming to the front of them, and they don't know how to deal with it. And so they do completely off the wall things. And if they had the tools from being younger, or even not even being younger, because we understand that a lot of families, whether it was a single mother or a single father, they had to do what they had to do to provide for their children. But once they got into that college level, that's when a lot of the tools should have been given to them to cope, to navigate, to maneuver through life. So as they now proceed into the NFL, the minute they walk through that door, that's the first thing they should go through. I do believe they do go through some of those things. I don't know the works inside the organizations, what they do. I know when they go into the rookie meetings, they do discuss some of these things, but I believe they should have more tools presented to them. And not only tools, they should have more people like us, like myself, that's willing to open up and talk to them, to sit there and let them know, listen, it's okay that you went through some things. It's okay to open up. It's okay to talk about these things. I'm about to be 50 next month, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm just now learning about trauma, learning about triggers, learning about that I had traumatic experiences, learning that I have unhealed spaces. I'm just now learning about all of this stuff. And so a lot of conversations that me and my wife have are uncomfortable because I never went through those things. And now I'm starting to receive the emotional intelligence. I do go to therapy and I recommend it to everyone. It's not bad. It's great because you're allowed a safe space to just speak about whatever you want to speak about and there's no judgment to you. And I don't know about you all, but when I get to start talking like now, as you can see, I haven't stopped. It feels good to let it go. And that's why I'm Coach O Speaks. My wife is called She Rambles and I'm Coach O Speaks. So because that's my ramble. I didn't want to mimic her with He Rambles. So it's Coach O Speaks.
And we want to give a shout out to his best friend, Mr. Coach Pastor, my brother Desmond Cook. He is the chaplain for the Miami Dolphins,
Yes.
and he does a great work over there. You know, when you think about a chaplain, you're like, oh, they're just going to pray. That's it. But no, he goes beyond prayer. He has Bible study with these young men. He coaches, he mentors, he does all of the things. So we do want to give a shout out to him and his program that he does with those players, helping them with coping skills. Now we're not also talking about NFL. We talking about NBA because Mr. Coach O Speaks knows about the NBA as well as NHL and all of these things because they're all in draft periods now, and some of them are playing or whatever. But we're talking about all athletes on all levels because yeah. So now, how do you think that a receiver, Jesus, how can a player receive hard feedback without immediately becoming defensive?
Mm.
How did you deal with that when you were a coach?
Basically, you got to understand your players, right? You got to understand who they are and what makes them react, what makes them tick, right? You just can't take a verbiage and just throw it at every player. You just can't go to every player and speak to them exactly the same way. No, because they all are different. They all have different upbringings, backgrounds, etc. So you have to know your players and know how they work in order to present to them whatever difficult information you're trying to give to them.
Now, people rarely talk about the coaching side of this thing. So what is it like having to tell someone they didn't make the cut?
It's not easy. It's very difficult, especially if it's just one of those athletes that gave everything they have, but they're just not physically gifted, or they not the, as they say, the size for certain positions and things like that. So it does get difficult to present to a young man, hey, we appreciate everything that you've done, but unfortunately you're not going to make the cuts. It is very tough. So that's why you got to know your players. You got to know who they are so you can give them the unfortunate news, the uncomfortable conversation, but also have a great bond with them that when they do hear the uncomfortable conversation, they can receive it with the most love and compassion and not be able to spiral or fall down and lose complete, mayhem because they just been destroyed.
So you absolutely just answered the next question, which is how can the coaches be honest while still being compassionate? So you did say that, just know your player and just know how to deliver it to them because not everybody's going to receive the same way.
Correct. You just can't be a robot, as my wife always says to me. You just can't be on robot mode and just dun 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 just go. No, you gotta have the compassion. You gotta, because we're all humans. We're all people. We all have feelings. We all have emotions. We all have desires. Like she said, some of these athletes that, they have the pressure of their families. Some of them are even the pressure of their community, right? So they have a lot on them. So they over put more pressure on themselves and don't come in fully prepared. So as a coach, you just can't be like, "Hey man, listen, yeah, you're not making the team. Have a nice day." No, you gotta be able to give them this blow without destroying who they are.
So, how do you think emotional intelligence plays into leadership?
It's a major role. I think it's major because the more information you have as a leader of your people you are leading, the way the emotional aspect can be worthy for you, right? If you know everything about your team that you are leading, you're able to control how your players, how your people, whoever you're leading, you're able to have that camaraderie, that bond between each and every one of them. It's a unity. But if you don't have information and you don't have the emotional understanding to sit there and lead these people, you're going to fall apart. That's why you see with organizations like certain clubs, like the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, these organizations like right now, my Miami Dolphins, when you don't have that emotional intelligence in the leadership, they're just making decisions based on money aspect, right? How can I make more money? That's what a lot of people look at. How do I keep the fans in and make money? They're not caring about nothing else. You got to remember, you have lives and people's feelings involved. So once you understand this and you can sit there and relate to them and understand them, you're able to put a culture together. You're able to put a team together. You're able to lead and control the outcomes of games because of that.
And if you're just tuning in, emotional intelligence, by definition, on the book that we're reading, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Bradbury and Jean, that is the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and influence your own emotions as well as the emotions around you. It is an essential skill for effective communication, conflict resolution, building a healthy personal and professional relationship or culture, as we want to say when we're speaking about sports. So, what do you think leaders in any field learn from sports conversations like these?
I think what they learn from it is basically how to deal with their people. I think that's the best way to put it. The more information they learn, that's why I love that there's a lot of um, um, gatherings and programs out there where coaches get together from all walks of life and give conventions and discuss things. They discuss the in and outs. They also discuss about emotional intelligence and things like that. Because the more information you could get, the better person you could become to lead, to instruct, to train, to guide, to motivate, whatever you want to call it. You're able to do these things because now you have more information to help you out as a person, but also to sit there and be able to help others.
Now, for a long time, we saw the development of uh, Mike McDaniels, we saw Tua, and just how the team just from the inside out was just kind of like an onion. When you bloom it, it's just was opening up, and you saw that there was issues, and you kept saying, "Hey, why is the GM not doing what he's supposed to be doing, or why is this and why is that?" And for years they let the Mike McDaniels thing continue because they kept believing, I guess, in whatever his plan was, and also with Tua, consistently just looked like his I guess skill was kind of like going down, or he just wasn't gelling with the boys. So, is avoiding difficult conversations actually more harmful in the long run?
100%. You saw, and I'm glad you brought that up. You saw it with this team, right? You have the GM. First, you have the owner. You have the owner who's the top. Then you have the GM. You have the head coach. Then you have the players, right? So the owner wants what he wants. Now, if the owner and GM can't get on the same accord, right there, you're already going to have a whole bunch of mess going on. Once that's a mess, if the GM and head coach can't get on the same accord, there's another mess. And then once the head coach and players aren't on the same accord, like McDaniels and Tua, it's a wrap. In order for, or look at the greatest organizations that been to multiple playoffs, been to multiple Super Bowls. Kansas City Chiefs right now, right? Before Mahomes just got injured. Why were they so successful, right? They were successful because the owner had a vision. The owner got a GM and they both discussed the vision. The GM got the head coach that could sit there and provide the vision. And then the head coach found his guy that could lead the vision. Patrick Mahomes. So you go from the GM to Andy Reid to Patrick Mahomes. In order for this to work, all of those four people have to be on the same accord, or as my wife liked to say, alignment. They have to be aligned. So they all have to be on the same page in order to win games and win the championships. New England Patriots. I hate saying that team, but they had one of the greatest runs of all time of any sports. Okay? The longest run, I think the only longer run of them was the early Yankees in the 20s. I think they won like 26 championships, something like that. That's like the only other time. But in the modern day era where you're talking about trades, free agencies, salary caps, how much money you can spend, what you can't go over. You didn't see those as they call dynasties, right? But the Patriots, over a 20-year run of winning championships, right? 9 Super Bowls they went to. Why? The owner had a vision. He got the GM. He put the coach in place, and the coach found his guy. They were all aligned. But when you're one over here, one over here, one here, and one here, those four corners ain't going to work only to protect certain things. But once you get into the alignment, everything falls into place.
We talked earlier about the boys, the guys, young men having the emotional skills of coping skills and things to come in. Of course, we know some of them have not come. They're coming in with a lot of things on them because, again, like you said, it's tunnel vision trying to just get to the NFL because they have families, they have dreams. This is, a lifelong thing for them. So that's what they're focused on. They're not focused on emotions. But somewhere inside, there's a rejection. Their rejection might be up in there from something in the past as a kid. They might have wanted to play ball with dad, but dad's too tired because he had to work too much. He was working 5 jobs, whatever it was, and he was rejected. So, how does getting cut from a team mirror rejection in everyday life?
Oh man, of course it does, because it brings if you have the unhealed space of rejection and you have not dealt with it or tapped into it, the minute you get cut from the team, all of that prior rejection is going to come right up to the head. And the thing that's going to happen is failure right behind it. And a spiral is going to happen. I'm one of them. I felt rejection for so many years. So the minute I didn't succeed at something, failure came right to there. It was the next stage after rejection. So when they get rejected from the team, they're going to spiral unless they have somebody there that is emotionally intelligent enough to let them know, hey, listen, even though I have to cut you, there's 31 other teams. This isn't the end of your opportunity. Do not let this fall apart. Do not let this destroy you. Build from this. Okay. You have great game tape. You have great film. Unfortunately, it just doesn't suit what we're trying to do. We want to make it work, but it just doesn't fit. But there's 31 other teams out there. Someone's going to sign you. Be ready.
Perfect segue into the sheriff, aka Sam Darnold. I call him that because of that mustache. He just looked like a sheriff to me. So we talk about something. As soon as I ask the question, you're going to know what I'm talking about. So I'm not even going to get into it. But he was one place, he's somewhere else. He won a Super Bowl. Can rejection sometimes redirect someone toward where they actually belong?
100%. Because sometimes it just, as I like to say it, a change of scenery. Sometimes that's what it is. Just a different organization has a different culture, and that's what you needed to find your way. And in case of Sam Darnold, like my wife likes to call him the sheriff because of his mustache, and it's cool because we put names on a lot of y'all athletes, so don't take it wrong. This is the love for my wife to be involved with me, so I love it. But yes, a situation like Sam Darnold, it didn't work out at first in one situation. He was known as, a waste of a pick. but now he just won a Super Bowl after 3 years of being known as the waste of a pick, right? Change of scenery, right? That's why there's trades. That's why there's free agency. Sometimes that's all an athlete needs is to get into another situation where somebody truly wants them. And you'll see it because they will show you that they truly want you and want to build with you or build around you.
Okay. What would you say to a coach that is struggling with delivering hard truths?
Hey man, honestly, you got to do it. So you got to learn to be uncomfortable. Okay, if you have to talk with other coaches to work out the scenario, do scenario reps with each other, right? Because you have to have these uncomfortable conversations. Okay, you can be the reason why the person you're giving this information to can either build and become a great person or fall apart and destroy themselves. So if you struggle with being able to present the uncomfortable conversations, find someone to talk to because there is uncomfortable situations within yourself that you're not happy with. So you need to talk with each other to work things out. And role playing is always great. My wife does that a lot with me to get me out of a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And that's why we're always trying to converse. And that's what everybody needs to do with this day in life is to have these talks.
At what point does tough coaching become emotionally damaging?
Oh man. It comes damaging when you're trying to be tough and you can see the resistance or you can see the players about to break. That is when you have to pull back from the tough and you can't be like, no, sometimes you got to sit there and see what's happening. As my wife likes to say, read the room. Okay. You have to be able to see what's going on with everyone. We all get like it. We all do. We all get tunnel vision. Okay. We're men. Okay. We get that easily because we've always been one-minded focused. So we focus things at task. And when we get tunnel vision, we forget and don't see anything else. So that tough love of that tunnel vision, it's you know when to do it and when not to do it, right? It's just like Kenny Rogers, know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
And we're going to go ahead and wrap it with this last question. What does emotional maturity in sports truly look like to you?
Man, it's to me what it looks like is when a player goes through a game, an athlete, and you see they're struggling and you see they're getting down and they find a way to sit there and take that negativity, put it away, put it behind them, and they become great. They become amazing. They lead their team back to a win. They lead their team to the playoffs. They lead their team to the Super Bowl, the championship. That's what emotional maturity is. That when things get rough, they don't fall and bend. They don't fall apart and break. They bend and they like, wait a second. I know what this is about. I know how to fix this. That's what it is to me.
All right. Well, this was the Friday Frenzy, and we were wrapping up our emotional intelligence talk and tough conversations. I mean, tough conversations are everywhere. At the end of the day, being cut from a team does not cut away your value. Sports can teach us discipline, resilience, and accountability, but emotional intelligence is what teaches us how to carry those lessons through life. Sometimes the hardest conversations become the moments that shape us the most.
And to close out, I use football because, yes, my first love is football. And my wife got me to realize that I need to use football as my way of life. Everything that is about me and my life, I analyze it by football. And because I'm able to analyze it through football, I'm able to speak to other young men that have a passion in their sports and get them to see it and show them how, hey, if you play basketball, you utilize basketball rules and regulations, the offense, the defense, the screens, the picks. the pick and rolls, all of that. You could use that in your way in life, how to maneuver and navigate. And if you're in baseball, when you're stealing, when you're trying to make a double play, when you're sliding into home base, when you're knocking the ball out the park for a home run, and the same thing with hockey, with the two line pass, the icing, the goalie, all that stuff, all the defenders, the forwards. So every sport, if you are a fanatic of those teams, use the love of that to live your life, to maneuver, to navigate, to understand your emotional up and downs. It can help you, it can guide you, and it can lead you to that championship.
Everyone won't make the team, but everyone can grow from the experience, and that growth carries far beyond the game.
Hey, thank you all for joining me today on Friday Frenzy on The Rebel Within. I'm Coach O Speaks.
She rambles in the background.
Deuces.